episode of the It's the Pictures podcast. This is episode 184, and I am your host, Max Colville. This is going to be probably the last episode of 24, but we're going to go out good times, right? We have our co-host, Evan Crean, with us here tonight. Hi, Evan.
Hey, Max. How's it going?
Going great. In the thick of the holiday shopping season and December movie craze. I got asked by a relative the other day who knows I kind of watch movies for a living if I had seen any new movies lately. And
what a loaded question. Anytime anyone asks us, it's great. We love talking about movies, but sometimes I feel so on the spot when someone asks me, what have you seen? Because I see so much sometimes I forget what I've seen. Not good on the spot.
Right, and very much like we're it's a first world problem thing to have, that we're waist deep in for your consideration screeners and what have you. But certainly, if you stay tuned for the end of the episode, I picked box office smashes like Wicked and Moana 2 that you can go to the theater right now, and I'll make sure to weigh in on those two movies.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a little bit of Evan's list too, and one of those has been making quite watery waves as well in the box office. The theme of water here in the animated films this year.
We're awash in them.
Yes. But otherwise, how are you doing, Evan? This cold December, right? We're getting. I think it was like 2-3 days ago here in New England where I felt it was like this is it's time now. This is New England weather. It was like a mixture of like snow and rain. It was just nasty. And I'm like, yeah, this is the stuff.
Yeah, it's starting to get gross outside. It's starting to get cold, sad. But actually, a few nights ago, I went to see because a friend of mine, they couldn't go, so they asked if I wanted to come along to see Neil deGrasse Tyson talk over in Worcester. And they bought like tickets as a group with their family, and we went, and we didn't realize that his talk was about movies. His whole thing was called An Astrophysicist Goes to the Movies, and it was him just talking about scientific themes in movies and breaking them down and talking about ones that were like really accurate, ones that really weren't. And it was so much fun. It was very funny. Neil deGrasse Tyson was a very engaging speaker, and I just had an absolute blast. So it was like perfect that I ended up going. And so I highly recommend, if Neil deGrasse Tyson is going to be near you, that you should go see this talk. It was a lot of fun.
What did he stick with science fiction movies for the most part, or did he do action genre too?
No, he kind of was all over the place, actually. And even I'll say my favorite thing that he talked about. So he was talking about thermodynamics and the concept of heat exchange. And so if you have someone, if two people's hands are touching, one person's hand is cold, the other person will touch it, and they will then feel the transfer of cold to their hand, but the person whose hand is cold will feel a warm hand. So he was showing a scene from West Side Story where they meet and touch hands, and he says, your hand is cold, and he said, your hand is cold. Sorry. He says your hand is cold, and she says your hand is cold too. And he's like, not possible. One of them would have to feel that the hand is warm. And it was just really funny seeing him get like really amped up about these like picayune details in movies. So it wasn't just, science fiction movies that he was breaking down.
No, that's a funny one, certainly. I mean, because obviously one of them would be a different temperature than the other one.
Right.
And there was this procedural TV show that was on a few years ago, Evan, called like The Mentalist, and he would use a lot of tricks like that in solving his crimes, just like human science things.
Yeah, exactly. And then toward the end, he also talked about his cameo appearances in movies, and so that was a lot of fun hearing him talk about those.
Awesome. So before we go on to our news, Evan, I wanted to share with our audience that one of my old articles that I wrote on Polygon.com, you can just go there and read it if you don't want to buy the book, but now it's been collected in a book about Lord of the Rings from Polygon. And
it's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, so it's my first time being published in a book. I was very excited. I was like, it was funny. I was talking to somebody else, and I told them that I was being published, and they're like, "Does that mean they're gonna give you any more money?" I'm like, "No,
No, they already
that's not
paid you
what
for
that
the work,
means."
right?
Yeah, yeah, they already paid me for it. They can do what they want with it now, but I'm very happy to have my work featured in that book among other great writers as well. So if you see it, I think the book is called Year of the Ring, and it's being published by partners of Polygon.com.
Very cool. You're gonna get a copy at least, right?
Yeah, I have a copy. Yeah,
Oh,
they
great.
sent me one. So yeah, I think it's like a $45 MSRP book too. So it's just like I'm glad to have a copy.
Yeah, yeah. Those movie books. There was a period in my career where I was reviewing books as well as movies, and a lot of them were movie themed. And those books that they gave me to the review copies, when I looked at them, there were those like beefy coffee table size books that were like really expensive. So it was really nice to get those for free to review.
This is the season of reviews and just getting a
Awards.
lot of for your consideration things, and we're not alone in being overwhelmed with for your consideration screeners, Evan. Some of the voting bodies, if you will, our peers, because Evan and I are both part of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, have already started voting and or releasing their results of their annual sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Today, as of December 8th, we heard from some film bodies from LA and Boston released some of their awards, and both bodies went for Anora, the Sean Baker film, as the best film of the year.
Mm-hmm.
AFI, which normally their top 10 kind of matches identical with what the Academy Awards end up doing side by side. You had Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, Nickel Boys, A Real Pain, Sing Sing, and Wicked. And, that I could totally see that being the 10. It's a great representation of a lot of studios and different types of films. Evan, I just rambled off. Obviously, Anora is a big favorite and has been for a while. What do you think about AFI's top 10, and how many have you caught up with thus far?
Not nearly as many as I should have, Max. I agree with you that I think this is a good diversity of movies, a lot of different types of movies, as you mentioned, different studios. I have yet to see Anora. I still really need to see that. Seems like its popularity is telling me I really need to see it before I vote in BAFTA's awards this upcoming week. But I'm happy to see Conclave on there. That's been one of my favorite movies that I've seen this year, and that's the only that and Nickel Boys are those are the two movies on the list that I've seen. So I have quite a bit of catch up to do.
Yeah, you do. I'll pat myself on the back here and say I've seen 9 of the 10, and
Damn, well done.
The only one I have not seen yet is the Bob Dylan, Timothy Chalamet movie, A Complete Unknown, which has had limited screening in Boston, and that's coming out right at the tail end of the year. So we'll see if I see it before Friday or if I catch up to it another time. But
yeah, I'm certainly not in a rush, not being a huge Bob Dylan fan anyway, but Dave Riedel, who's my co-host over on Spoiler Piece Theater, he loves Bob Dylan, and he said, I have zero interest in seeing it, so that should tell you something.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, like, there's a lot of great Bob Dylan movies, and he's certainly not a musician that has a lack of movies, but I think I was generally interested. Not like I needed to see it, but still want to see it before the end of the year, and I think that it fits a nice niche in the film awards bracket. And you have a lot of different movies. You have like 2 musicals.
Yep, it's true.
With Amelia Perez and Wicked.
Right. Sing Sing's not a musical, despite its title.
Yeah, that was one that I just saw the other day. Sing Sing.
Oh yeah.
I hadn't seen it yet, and it was one that like A24 released, and like it had premiered at TIFF in 23, and then like it got kind of sat on because they didn't want to release it in 23, and then in the summertime of 24 they released it briefly, and like not many people saw it, and now I guess there's plans to re-release it theatrically in theaters in January from A24. I heard.
Okay.
Because like it's weird that you can't like already rent this movie considering it's been out in the marketplace before. But,
Yeah, that is a little strange.
Yeah, it's still not available, but it has a fantastic performance by Coleman Domingo, and
Oh, I love him.
yeah, he's been on quite a roll these last few years. And,
very busy guy.
Yes, very in-demand actor.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think as the awards come in, it's funny. I think National Border Review released their favorites recently too, and there was a lot of hubbub because they named Wicked as their favorite film. And I don't know, Evan. I think it's totally a believable choice in the fact that it's made a lot of money. It's gotten favorable reviews. It has a star-studded cast. You know, even though it's a very populist musical and story, I don't think I don't think that discounts its awards chances.
It's okay, critics, to like musicals. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean, there's some musicals I just don't care of. Like, I didn't see the Joshua Oppenheimer The End yet, but I've heard that is a musical that people do not like.
No, yeah. Musicals can be divisive, but it's okay to like them, and it's okay to like popular ones. They're popular for a reason. People like them. They like the songs.
But outside of that, Evan, I wanted to just play a fun game with you. I don't know if we're going to get abbreviated podcast to actually share the BAFTA results. If you want to find are the results of our voting, they'll be up, I believe, what is it, Evan, on the 15th on social media?
Yeah, they're going to be available on Sunday the 15th, correct?
Yeah. So you'll be able to find them on Blue Sky, on X, on the official BAFTA account, wherever else I'm told to post them.
Yes.
That's where they'll be. But it's weird. Like, sometimes I like to just imagine what our body is going to vote for, and last year I think it was dead on for what the Oscars picked for their 10, and I was just like, it's surprising because you have this great body of people, and this is just like the median of what everyone decided to watch, and like it's crazy how it works out in the end.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, so I think one of the things that makes things interesting in BAFTA is that we don't do nominations, so we don't have like a narrower field, and we all watch such a diverse group of movies and vote for such a diverse set of movies that it can be really interesting some years to see what wins, and sometimes it's very much on par with what other critics are enjoying and voting for, and sometimes it's a little bit left of field. Last year, you're right. I think it was definitely more dead on in terms of what other critics organizations were voting for and talking about. But yeah, I'm not sure this year. I mean, yeah, Anora could be a strong front runner. I mean, we also have a pretty robust, not sorry if this is too much inside baseball, listeners, but we have a pretty robust group forum where we talk about these things and recommend movies to each other during the season, and you'll find some pretty diverse reactions to certain movies. Like, I know some people in the group really were big fans of The Substance, and some people who were really not fans of The Substance. So maybe The Substance will show up somewhere in our voting. Maybe Demi Moore will win an award, but who knows? Maybe not. Maybe enough people dislike it.
No, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think I'm on the fence that that film is wonderfully acted from the two leading ladies, and they hold that movie together for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. What are some ones you think will end up? I mean, I think Flow, maybe in terms of animated, if enough people in the group have caught it, could take our best animated crown this year.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Flow some more later. But yeah, it's it's a combination of things, Evan. It's like I think it's like a cauldron or a melting pot, if you will, of all these different ideas, and that's what this median idea comes from, because you got people who, you know, may not like the populist movies. They might like turn on the Brutalist, and they'll be like, "Geez, I gotta sit through this for like another 2.5 hours," and they're not afraid to turn it off or say like they're not into it, and so I think there's a lot of things that play into it, whether the availability of some of these films,
Mm-hmm.
how many screenings we've had, whether or not we've had them in our inboxes for a while. There's a lot of inside baseball, a lot of things of how this plays. It's not like if people listening to this want to know if studios get us all the people voting into one screening together to watch it. That doesn't happen.
Right.
At least not here.
Yeah. I mean, and then the other thing is like we do ranked choice voting, so you're picking depending on the category a couple of your favorites, and then you're giving your top 10, and all of the ranked choice voting factors into, and whatever ends up getting picked later. So that definitely explains sometimes why they're kind of the more mainstream choices, because some of them are what got the best number of votes across the board from people.
Yeah, I know, but I think even like there was a year that before I joined Evan, and I've been in Power Bafka for a while now,
Hmm.
but it was like one of the more, I guess, inspired choices was the Bong Joon Ho film. That won,
Snowpiercer.
yeah, Snowpiercer won
Yep.
a few years back, and the it was like, well, that's kind of left the field, but um, people enjoyed it. They were like, oh, that's a great pick.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, no. As for what I definitely think we'll see. I mean, some people are like, "Oh, Boston has to play Boston movies," and like, I don't think that's necessarily the case for our
No.
group. Um,
Yeah. I remember the year people were pissed at us that Spotlight didn't win.
yeah,
Like, oh, how dare you, Boston critics, not think Spotlight was the best movie this year? Like, it was a great movie. I thought it was a great movie. Was it our best picture material? No, it wasn't. So here you go.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like things that are I think are generally popular, and why Anora has won things is like Anora is not a tremendously long movie. It has a great leading performance. It goes by, makes people feel a great range of emotions. So I think like that is just an easy thing for someone to put on a list of 10 films.
Yeah,
I also feel like Conclave kind of fits that bracket too, so it wouldn't surprise me to see that. Um, I guess some of these other ones, it depends how much somebody liked them. I mean, Wicked seems like another one that could just like get into people enjoying it.
hmm
Um,
yeah, y-
if
y-
people remember Dune Part Two enough, because that feels like ages ago. So, um,
for sure. And I mean, one of my favorite awards that we do is Best Ensemble. And I feel like often if there's a movie that, as you're describing, Max, is a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more popular among the general public, there's opportunities for that movie to kind of show up in the Best Ensemble, because we're thinking like, oh, if it has really great cast, it's a lot of fun. I know people are generally kind of voting. That's more one of the more fun categories to vote in.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think like it'll be exciting to see what happens. I'm always excited to see how the votes come in and how everything shakes out in the end. And um, it's a not necessarily mine or yours favorite at the end. It's the collection of all these different people, and
Exactly.
so that's what
Everybody's
makes it interesting.
Yeah, everybody's different, and some of our critics are more genre focused, so their choices might skew more toward sci-fi or action or horror. I know my ballot generally skews a lot towards horror. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right, and without further ado, Our topic for this week is looking at the fantastic career of Nicole Kidman, uh, kind of in honor of her upcoming movie Baby Girl, and what Evan would tell me her summer TV show. What was that called?
The Perfect
Stranger or something?
Couple.
The Perfect Couple. Okay.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, she's had a
yeah,
few things come out this year, both TV and film. She's a very busy actor.
booked and busy.
Yep, that's for sure.
But yeah, apparently, Baby Girl did well at the Cannes Film Festival, and it's coming out now on Christmas Day. And Nicole Kidman has been busy for a lot of years, and you'd be surprised to know that she wasn't born in Australia. She was actually born in Hawaii because her parents were there on a visa before being raised in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
She starred in a lot of features and TV shows before making her U.S. film debut in this movie called Dead Calm in 1989, opposite Sam Neill, who
Love Sam Neill.
I mean, most of our audience would probably know him from Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year later, she co-starred with Tom Cruise in Days of Thunder, and not only did she, get in a bigger blockbuster, but she also found her husband.
Yep.
Because after recording of that movie, they quickly got married. There was a few other movies during the early 90s, including the DC Comics movie Batman Forever in 95, but it wasn't that movie that really brought her to international attention. It was Gus Van Sant's To Die For in 1995. She would appear in a few films with her husband Tom Cruise, but the last one together was also Stanley Kubrick's final film, Eyes Wide Shut, in 99. Although that film is excellent, I really enjoy Eyes Wide Shut. It could never live up to the tabloids' public scrutiny of their relationship. And after that, they were divorced. And she would go on. She would join Baz Luhrmann, the Australian director, for Moulin Rouge, another musical. She played Satine in that movie. Brought her to lots of awards attention, but it was the year later when she would win for her portrayal of Virginia Woolf in The Hours. And since her win in 2002, she has appeared in at least 50 additional projects, whether it be animated movies, television shows like her Emmy Award-winning turn in the TV series Big Little Lies, or family films like Paddington. Certainly, there's definitely a chance you've seen a few of her movies, if not a great deal. Evan, according to Letterboxd, I've seen at least 21 projects that she's appeared in throughout her career. So
nice.
Yeah, I've seen a great deal of her body of work.
Yeah, I'd say I've seen a decent amount. I don't know off the top of my head how much. Well, as I was saying to Max off mic, a lot more of my Nicole Kidman intake lately has been on the TV side of things because she's also been very busy in TV.
Yeah, I think she was also. I didn't watch the series because it came out at a weird time, and I had seen like one episode at TIFF, but she was in Lulu Wang's most recent project called Expats that was on like Amazon Prime.
Yep, I watched that.
Evan, I saw today and more like just Star News that Lulu Wang and Barry Jenkins tied the knot.
Oh, that's great. Good for them.
Yeah, Barry Jenkins, of course, being the director of Moonlight and the upcoming Mufasa movie. I
did not know that. I did not know he was connected to the Mufasa movie. That I did know they were together.
Yeah, we're getting a new Barry Jenkins movie in like 2 weeks, Evan.
Oh man, yep, did not realize that. I mean, I didn't even realize there was a Mufasa movie coming out until a few days ago, and I saw a trailer and I said, "What?" I had no clue that movie was not on my radar at all.
Yeah, that movie it actually has music from Lin-Manuel Miranda too.
Wow.
Yeah, so this Christmas it'll be a battle between his last movie Moana 2 and his new movie Mufasa. But yeah,
Talking about
I
someone
want.
else who's busy.
Yeah, I would like. I wanted to talk about Nicole Kidman because she's had such a long lasting career now.
Yeah.
Certainly, if you say like '89 was her American debut, that's north of what 35 years almost in the American film scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she doesn't just like play like romantic comedy leads. Like some of her roles are really fascinating.
Yep.
I mean, lately, I maybe I'm just thinking Big Little Lies, but like I think like some of her roles lately have been like of the abused woman. Um, Evans
Yeah.
told me in The Perfect Couple, and at least from what when I watched Baby Girl recently, also about a woman who might be older but still has a lot of desires that aren't being met. Certainly, those are themes that she's uh, seeking these days.
Yeah, I think she's had a very diverse career in terms of the types of roles that she's played. I think earlier in her career, she was kind of like the leading lady love interest. You're talking about your Days of Thunder, Batman Forever, some of those movies, and then mixed in there was stuff like Practical Magic. That was really kind of fun, like more whimsical movie for her. And then she's kind of spent a lot of time in that kind of heavy drama territory since then. And I would say in the last like decade or so, a lot of her roles, not all of them, but a lot of them are kind of heavy drama where she plays a wife and mother kind of really dealing with some shit for lack of a better phrasing. She's just dealing with very characters that are dealing with very heavy things, issues in a marriage, issues with children, really just tough stuff, and she's has to kind of navigate that and deal with a lot of trauma and emotional tumult. And I feel like she's really kind of settled into that sphere quite nicely in terms of just turning out some really great performances. I think
Yeah,
less so for me in the kind of like lighthearted stuff, but I respect that she's trying to just change it up a lot.
yeah, and I think what we shouldn't lose in all this, Evan, is that yes, for Hollywood, Nicole Kidman is an older actress, and she's very much still in demand, whether or not it's through the connection she's made in Hollywood, certainly with Big Little Lies and making, she's good friends with Reese Witherspoon, who has her own production studio and is getting a lot of her friends and fellow actresses in roles, and oftentimes it's these older actresses kind of get forgotten, and they don't get these roles that really matter anymore, and it's great that someone of her caliber continues to find work.
Yeah, and make work for herself, you know.
Right, and so we picked a few movies that we were very familiar with, or at least had seen recently. And the one that I saw probably outside of Baby Girl, which I'll talk about near the end of our discussion, I saw most recently was probably Gus Van Sant's To Die For, because Criterion released like a Blu-ray or 4K of it earlier in 24. I think it was around February,
Mm-hmm.
and I had never seen it before. I had
Oh,
heard
first time
that,
watch.
yeah, I had heard that like it was like a really great performance from Kidman, and it certainly held that up. Where uh, she plays the character of Suzanne Stone, and she's always had this dream of being like on television and being like a world famous broadcast journalist. Um, but like she'll do anything to get there. And it's so funny, you watch this film, Evan, and you're like, oh, what Suzanne Stone would have done with the power of like an iPhone in her hand and YouTube. because like the whole catch of this movie is like you could only be on TV if like you were an actress or a TV show, or in this way, uh, Suzanne is trying to um, work at like a local cable station and climb up the ladder, and eventually she like becomes the station's evening weather reporter, and that's like a big deal for her to be on TV, even if it's doing the weather report. The movie also features performances from Joaquin Phoenix and Matt Dillon, and it's funny seeing Joaquin Phoenix in this one. He's also very young.
Yeah, I'm seeing like there's like a trailer playing on my screen on mute, and I'm seeing how young Joaquin Phoenix looks. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, he this was what, like 5 years before Gladiator, and like Gladiator is like when I first really became I knew who Joaquin Phoenix was, and yeah, he's neat in this movie, but um yeah, it go to Die For kind of goes off the rails, like because Suzanne is so determined to get what she wants. Um, she even uses Joaquin Phoenix and his sister. I think in the movie they're both like very young, and like they might even be high school students, and like she's just like using them as like her lackeys to help her like record stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, the movie goes uh pretty wild, where like there's mafia involved, and um, murder, death, sabotage, what have you. So I
This is
think
one I've always wanted to see, and it's been on my list, and I really do need to see it.
yeah, it's pretty fun. Like, and Nicole Kidman gives a really unhinged performance as Suzanne, where like I didn't necessarily expect that going in, but um, you see it and you're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, that was To Die For in '95, but I'm probably much more able to talk more about Eyes Wide Shut. But Evan, you said that you haven't seen To Die For? Have you seen Eyes Wide Shut?
Also, no, I feel like it's been weirdly been on places where I've been, just because I have nerdy film friends that might have like put it on the background or something. But I never actually sat down and watched it.
Well, it's funny, like, because this year, since it's released on Christmas, Baby Girl is being promoted as like almost like a Christmas movie, and there's certainly, I think it takes place over Christmas or whatever, and there's Christmas trees, so
Yeah.
you could call it a Christmas movie if you want. Same thing with Eyes Wide Shut. For many years, I've considered it like an alt Christmas movie where like it's not really Christmas, but like it takes place during the holiday season. There's a lot going on that is Christmas adjacent. So like it feels like Christmassy to me. So if you haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut, maybe it's a great time to watch it. Um, this one, I feel like she co-stars because it's really Tom Cruise's journey in this movie, because uh, Cruise and Kidman play a married couple, and she talks about like I think either having an affair or at least flirting with other men in front of him, and he becomes very sensitive and dejected. And one evening he is out and about, and he gets invited to this like secret club, and um, there's like a password and everything, and he has to go and get a costume so that he can fit in. And he goes, and he's immediately like out of sorts, because like it's like an orgy. That's what this at this place is. It's
Yeah.
like men go there who are in different sorts of power avenues and what have you, and everybody's just like in their mask having sex and what have you. And that was like really like, oh, gasp, shock when the movie came out and what have you. But
Yeah, there was I don't know if I would say controversy, but it definitely felt very salacious at the time. Just
yeah,
hearing the words "eyes wide shut" was like, ooh. true.
um, but yeah, it's a lot like Tom Cruise's journey to like find out where he kind of exists in his marriage and um, dealing with his own insecurities. And there's like a great final line in the movie that Nicole Kidman gets to deliver, and they're talking about like how they're like they're insecure of their relationship, and there's a lot of like animosity going on, and she's like, well, there's one thing that we have to do when we get home, and he's like, what? And she's like, fuck. And then like the movie fades, like cuts to black, and that's like the last line ever in a Stanley Kubrick movie, and it's fantastic. But yeah, no, when I tell other people that like I really enjoy Eyes Wide Shut and I think it's like a great Christmas movie, they look at me sideways. But like, they're okay to call Die Hard a Christmas movie, so
Yeah.
let me have this, damn it.
I'm not gonna fight you over it, Max.
It's like I'm waiting for my new Christmas holiday movie that we all, well, I won't say we all, but a lot of people loved last year, The Holdovers. I guess it's coming out in 4K from Shout, and I'm just like, that's another one that's like not really happy-go-lucky Christmas spirit, but like it's
Right.
gonna be a Christmas movie for me.
I mean, I like the holdovers quite a bit. I mean, I don't know if it's one I'm gonna put on to get me in the Christmas spirit, but it's definitely a good movie.
And let's see, can we find one? Can we find one for you, Evan? Was there a Nicole Kidman movie that you'd like to talk about?
Nicole Kidman movie that I'd like to talk about. I mean, we talked a little bit before about Days of Thunder, which is it's one of my favorite underrated Tom Cruise movies, and I think she's great in it. And I think it's kind of clear when you watch it, their kind of on-screen chemistry, and I think it's very clear that there was something there in the beginning. I mean, they lost it obviously since they broke up, but you could tell that there was definitely a chemistry, on screen, off screen chemistry between them. And
So, but what's going on with Days of Thunder, Evan? What kind of movie is it? Wasn't it like Tom Cruise trying to like recapture what Top Gun did?
Yeah, kind of. It's another Tony Scott movie. Tony Scott obviously directed Top Gun, stars Tom Cruise. It's about stock car racing, and Tom Cruise plays a kind of hotshot guy who's trying to break into the NASCAR game, and but he's one of those kind of guys. He's like all speed and no technique. Like he doesn't quite understand like how to be a good NASCAR driver, and so he is taken under Robert Duvall's wing, and Robert Duvall's kind of like an old, timer / mentor to him, and it becomes this movie about the kind of people who like the live fast die young kind of people who have this like machismo to them, that they just like they're just like drive themselves into a wall because they don't know how to do anything else other than drive fast cars and live dangerously. And yeah, it's great. Michael Rooker plays his kind of rival, and it's one of my favorite Michael Rooker performances. But Nicole Kidman plays the doctor who's treating him, I believe, after he gets into a pretty serious accident. Both him and Michael Rooker like crash their cars into each other, and they're both pretty mangled, both physically and psychologically. And so she plays the doctor who kind of like helps piece him back together, and then becomes his love interest, and is kind of very cautiously cheering him on, but also is kind of like, you're crazy and this is nuts and you probably shouldn't be doing this for a living. So yeah, I think she's really good in it. And also, like I said, underrated Tom Cruise movie, not one as many people talk about, but it's definitely very tense, exciting, and I think it has a lot to say about masculinity and people who have very dangerous careers and just don't know how to live any other way, especially when when that career is over. Like if you can't drive anymore, then what do you do if you're someone like Tom Cruise or Michael Rooker in the movie? So
Oh well, when you talk about movies like that, it makes me think of another director, Darren Aronofsky, who's made a number of movies where, um, you know, people are at the end of their ropes, especially the Michael Rourke movie, The Wrestler, where he didn't know what he was gonna do. I mean, like I've seen Days of Thunder within the last 2 years, and that was my first time watching it. But do you feel like, um, it's trying to make like a similar message with that, like, uh, guys who just don't know when to stop or don't
yeah,
want to stop?
absolutely it is. Absolutely is. And yeah, I think Nicole Kidman is great in it. I mean, I think she's been much better in other roles and she's given much stronger performances, but I feel like it was a really great kind of early performance of hers where you could kind of see that, she was an up and coming star. In some ways it's kind of like a thankless role cuz it's a Tom Cruise vehicle, but you can see some early on that she has an on-screen charisma that is going to serve her well. So I like seeing that evolve over the course of her career because I feel like at this point she is very charismatic and she can play a lot of different roles, and I'm always excited when she shows up in things. So this was kind of like my introduction to her, so it always kind of has like a special place to me. Like, okay, that was when I saw Nicole Kidman for the first time.
Yeah, I was trying to think of when I probably saw her for the first time, and it had to be Batman Forever, because I think more recently, I don't know if I talked to you about it, Evan, or if it might have been when we talked about the Tim Burton movies, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about some of the Batmans, but I think Batman Forever was the first one that like I saw in theaters because I was too young for the other two or what have you, and
Mm-hmm.
so that would probably be the first time I knew Nicole Kidman without actually knowing who she was, because obviously at that age I didn't care which actor was who.
Right.
Um, but that was probably the first time I saw her acting, and I guess for me, I don't really want to talk about The Hours, even though that's the movie that she won for, because I remember being really fond of it at the time, and I think it has a score by Philip Glass, which I listen to sometimes because like the score is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that movie's really dry and it's really depressing. I think it like co-stars like Julianne Moore and one of her
Meryl
famous
Streep
actress.
too.
Yeah,
Looks
Meryl
like.
Streep. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a star-studded cast. But it's just kind of a bummer of a movie.
Yeah.
And I really dug Moulin Rouge.
Me too.
When that came out, I was a huge fan of the musical. I didn't think like it would work. There's certainly some songs that still like kind of don't work for me. Like I guess
What
like
about
later in the
Roxanne?
yes,
Does Rox-
exactly.
Roxanne? I cannot think of this movie without thinking that guy going Roxanne.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That is probably the worst number in the movie.
It's a little over the top.
Yeah, but no, I loved it, and it was it's this bohemian romance between Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman, where she is a Moulin Rouge dancer, and he is a struggling poet, and
Yep.
they somehow come face to face and fall in love together. And the key is that you have to sing Elton John's "Your Song."
Yeah, it's an interesting movie because it is this period piece, but it's also like hyper stylized and also very anachronistic. But I think generally in a good way, anachronistic with its musical numbers. Obviously, if you're not a fan of the Roxanne, I always kind of thought it was funny and a little bit over the top. But I think this is kind of like peak Baz Luhrmann,
Yes, I don't.
operating in the realm that he should be, which is something that's really kind of fun and over the top and stylized, but not to the point where it just ceases to have any kind of substance to it, which I feel like is a lot of his movies. It's all style and so little substance.
Yeah, I don't think I've liked anything all that much since. Um, I know my wife loves Strictly Ballroom, which was his first feature, and I think I've come around more to Romeo plus Juliet, even though,
I'm glad you call
uh,
it that too.
yeah, yeah, it's Romeo plus Juliet. That's
Yep.
how he wanted to do it. And at first I thought it was like too obtuse and silly, and I for one don't necessarily enjoy the story of Romeo and Juliet, so that was probably another hindrance. But I guess I appreciate his flair for that in his new way of handling that material.
Yeah. Yeah, Moulin Rouge was fun. Yeah, I think
Y-
Nicole Kidman is really magnetic in this movie. It's been a very long time since I've seen it, but I remember her being quite captivating.
Really? Yeah. I don't know when the last time I saw the movie, but I've seen the Broadway musical, which they've adapted it into a Broadway musical, and
Hmm.
they've kind of decided to add more music to it. And like one of the things that they did that really kind of made me upset was like they changed what songs they reference in the Elephant Love medley. But I guess it's like kind of what Baz Luhrmann was going for anyways, because he was trying to take like modern songs at the time, or at least songs that made sense to the audience, and mix them up into this musical. And
Hmm.
like I guess in that spirit the Broadway musical continues that idea, but it just, I don't know, I like the way that Baz Luhrmann did it, and that's why the way I want to watch it.
Hmm.
No, I think it's well done. I think there's other people who watch it, and whether it's just their distaste for musicals in general, but they definitely feel like it's over the top and just like too bombastic for them, and
Hmm.
I can see that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a danger with just about any Baz Luhrmann movie is being too bombastic. It's kind of his
Yeah,
thing.
I guess if you watch Australia, which I think was another Nicole Kidman and Hugh Jackman movie that was also repurposed as a TV show recently called Faraway Downs. Um, that that is like more dry as far as Baz Luhrmann's concerned.
Hmm.
I don't remember the last thing he did. I think it was like remember seeing like this Netflix show called The Get Up, and I watched like the pilot of that he did.
Oh, didn't he do that Elvis biopic a couple of years ago?
Oh yeah, yeah, he was the director of it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I guess
2022. Yeah, Elvis.
I don't know. Maybe I just didn't think of him, or maybe that didn't feel like too out there. But that was a fine that was a fine movie. It didn't move the needle for me.
I never ended up watching it, but I remember people having very polarized reactions to it. Generally, I remember critics either really loving it or really hating it.
Yeah. Before I talk about Baby Girl, was there any other Nicole Kidman movies you wanted to mention, Evan?
uh, well, I mean, I think this year, I think it's just kind of funny that there's two movies about where Nicole Kidman plays a woman, an older woman having an affair with a much younger man. The other movie this year is called A Family Affair, which I saw earlier in the year, and it has Zac Efron and Joey King, and Joey King is working for Zac Efron, who's playing a very like famous actor, and she's his assistant, and his her mom, played by Nicole Kidman, ends up meeting him, and they end up having an affair together. And obviously, she's really not on board with that because he's a terrible boss and treats her like shit. And I think Nicole Kidman is fine in it, but I like that she's kind of playing this theme this year. Apparently, like multiple movies in the same year having affairs with younger men. I think that's really awesome that she's
Yeah, it's her
carving
husband
out
Keith.
this fun like
Uh,
subgenre for herself.
Her husband Keith Urban better look out.
Yeah. But yeah,
Um,
I mean, I think over the years, I think she's put in some really strong performances in various movies that she's not necessarily the lead in. Like I remember really thinking she was great in movies like Lion, where she played Dev Patel's adopted mother in that. Boy Erased, where she played Lucas Hedges' mother, and that was the one where I believe that he was sent to conversion therapy by
Yes,
his
that's a movie.
father, Russell Crowe. I thought she was fantastic in that. I thought even thought she was great in Aquaman as Aquaman's mother. Despite being in that movie kind of briefly, I thought she was great in that too.
No, I'm sure she has plenty of other gigs booked outside of this year into the next year, but um, we are what 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks out from her latest movie, Baby Girl, coming to limited release. I imagine it's going to be limited as the aforementioned movie Mufasa, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and Wicked are still kind of dominating theaters. So maybe look for your independent theater to try to find Baby Girl and/or the similarly small movie Nosferatu by Robert Eggers, also coming out on Christmas Day. Yeah, Baby Girl. It stars Nicole Kidman. She's like a CEO of this big automation company,
Yeah,
and she is married to Antonio Banderas. And you're
yep.
like, oh, shouldn't that be like the greatest life ever? But lo and behold, we quickly discover that Antonio Banderas, of all people, doesn't do it for her.
Well, yeah. I mean, you see the film opens with a sex scene where she is not getting off, and then has to go in the other room to masturbate to the porn that actually does get her off. Her husband's not doing the trick there.
Yes, this despite being married for a number of years and having two children together.
Yeah. Well, it just
Um,
doesn't. Honestly, frankly, just doesn't seem like he's putting in the effort to actually make sure that she's satisfied. At least based on from what I saw of the movie.
yeah, and things change very quickly when one morning she's on her way to work and she sees this young man played by Harris Dickinson. Um, I guess like I knew him best from Triangle of Sadness, but I think he's been in a few other things. I think when I was talking to Evan earlier, I know he's in Blitz as well. Um,
Yeah.
and anyways, he is kind of comforting a dog that's very upset and petting it and getting it to come. And she's like, "How did you get that dog to come to you and be calm?" And he's like, "I gave it a cookie." And she's like, "Do you always have cookies on you?" And he's like, "Yeah, do you want one?" And like
Yeah.
it's a lot of this very like loaded conversations between her character and the character of Harris Dickinson, and the power dynamics at play, because she's obviously this big CEO and he's only an intern at her company, but yet um, the way he treats her and dominates her really excites her.
Hmm.
Certainly, the movie goes on and their relationship gets much more complicated as it goes on. But I was telling Evan before that I really enjoyed myself watching it, and any movie that has uh, a soundtrack that features the artists like George Michael, In Excess, and Robin is a-okay in my book. So
I guess I must not have gotten to those artists when I was listening because I feel like I was getting a lot of this like weird, breathy kind of score that was trying to like mimic sex noises. That was just really turning me off.
you know who did the score for this?
Who?
The composer who does the score for White Lotus, the famous
Oh,
HBO miniseries.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So when I learned that they did the soundtrack for this, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Because although I've only seen like the first episode of the first season of White Lotus, I like listened to like the opening of the second season, and that song is a banger. I'm like, I just like play it sometimes, and that's an aside. HBO has some terrific opening songs that I just listen to for fun, like Succession. That is a great theme song to get going.
Mm.
But no, I thought it was great. Maybe I thought like it was going to go in a much more violent direction that it thankfully never goes.
Well, that's good because I got the sense that it was going to be violent based on the amount that I had watched.
Yes, it never gets super violent in the end. Or you go and you're like, oh god, there's like 10 dead bodies.
Does anyone end up dead? Sorry, I know we're not supposed to be spoilering on this show, but now I'm curious.
Okay. Fast forward 30 seconds if you don't want to know whether or not someone dies in this movie starting now. No one dies in this movie.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so no, I really enjoyed myself, and the tagline is really provocative for Baby Girl, where like, this Christmas get what you want, and it's very much about Nicole Kidman's character finally finding a relationship that she can get her orgasms as much as she wants or as she needs them, because she's been so sexually frustrated from her marriage for all these years.
How do you feel like? Where do you feel like this ranks in terms of Nicole Kidman performances? Is this like top tier Nicole Kidman, like, medium?
I don't know, Evan. It's like, it's weird when actresses have sex in movies, because like, your mind is like, oh, they really went for it, and they really worked for that award, and like, they must have been so uncomfortable, and they're so brave for being naked on the screen. And I think that's often like, people are so quick to be like, that's extra points. And certainly there's some of that in this performance that might not be in some of her other great performances. That being said, I still thought that she was terrific in this. There's some great Best Actress performances this year. Of course, we talked about Anora at the beginning of this podcast. Mikey Madison's performance in that has been at the top of everyone's list as well, for very much the same reasons, Evan. I mean, she is a dancer in that movie that very often is naked and servicing her clients. So whether or not you like one performance or the other, I don't know, but I do believe that Nicole Kidman does excellent work in Baby Girl.
Fair enough. Yeah. Listeners, I tried watching this movie. I made it maybe like an hour in. It was just too much of a slog. I couldn't keep it going. I think from what I saw, Nicole Kidman was fine in terms of performance wise. But yeah, as I mentioned, I've seen a lot more of her TV output, and I really think she's been great in TV. I did want to mention that because I don't need to really like delve into, but I would recommend, as we're kind of wrapping up our Nicole Kidman discussion, I would recommend checking her out in The Perfect Couple, which is a Netflix miniseries. I would recommend seeing her in Expats, as Max mentioned. That's an Amazon show. I think those are two great performances from her. Expats, she's more front and center in. So I think if you really want something that's like heavy duty Nicole Kidman, I would definitely go to Expats because she's a more central character. It's more about her character's struggles and how this kind of overarching trauma is impacting all of the other surrounding people. So would definitely recommend checking those out.
Yeah, and if you're a person that goes to the movies on Christmas, I don't know, there's a movie for everybody, but know that like, if you go see Baby Girl, there's going to be a lot of sex in it, and if you go see Nosferatu, there's going to be lots of violence and sex in it. So that's my preview for the Christmas holiday.
Yeah, you gotta know what you're getting into with your movie that you're going to see on Christmas.
It's funny, Evan. Like, I had relatives who always see a Christmas movie, and years ago, they said, "Oh, we're gonna go see this new Adam Sandler movie called Uncut Gems, like on Christmas."
Oh my god!
And they're like thinking to themselves, like, "Oh, Adam Sandler, he's a good guy, and he's Jewish. They're my family's Jewish." and they're like, "Oh, it'd be a nice time at the movie
Yeah.
theater."
They're
And
like,
like
let's
I
go
was like,
support a member of the tribe here.
yeah. So I was like, make sure I need you to tell me what you thought of this movie when you get out of it.
That's
We're
such
just
an
like,
amazing movie to go in and have no idea what you're getting into. I mean, I knew what the movie was about, and I still felt like it knocked me on my ass while I was watching it. So I cannot imagine being like an average viewer going to see Uncut Gems and what that emotional roller coaster was like.
Oh yeah, it's great stories. I get, Evan. Yeah.
That's so fun. Do you know what they're gonna see this year? Have they told you yet?
No, like sometimes I see them like right before, like on Christmas Eve. Like I see them,
Gotcha.
and like I find out like what movie they're gonna go see. I don't know. It depends what they have and have not seen. I generally think that Wicked is going to be a movie that a lot of people go see this holiday. It'll be like,
I
oh, this
believe
is
it.
safe. It's entertaining. It's gotten good reviews.
Yeah, seems like it will play well with the theatrical experience. It'll be good to see with the crowd. There'll just be a lot of good energy overall.
Yeah, as opposed to like, I don't know, the older crowd won't want to go to Mufasa. They won't do Sonic. You know, they'll have other options, but
Yeah.
I think like that one will be a compelling movie for them.
Mhm.
And before I talk more about Wicked, which I will talk about when what I've been watching, let's do some station identification, Evan.
Yep.
So you can always listen to us. It's a Pictures podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram. We have a home base on Blue Sky. It's the Pick Pod. You can also email us at itsthepictures@gmail.com. You can check out Evan and I's individual Letterboxd. The actual Letterboxd for It's the Pictures hasn't been updated in a little bit, but we're both on Letterboxd and
Yep. Logging movies.
Yeah,
I'm less reviewing movies, more logging movies. So you
Yeah.
can see what I've been watching.
Yes.
Not necessarily what I think about it.
Yeah, I'm on that platform as MH Colville. If you want to find me on Blue Sky, you can search my name Max Colville, or I've recently changed my domain on Blue Sky to maxcolville.com. Did that whole identification nonsense that they have going on there.
Oh yeah. What were you before? Were you It's the Pictures?
Yeah, before I started like mhcolville.substack. No, mhcolville.bluesky.bsky.social. Like that's what was the first one, and then I went to like itsapictures.substack.com because I registered the DNS server there, and now I had changed it because I was like, let me just register a DNS server to maxcolville.com because that's where I keep my portfolio and everything. So
That makes sense.
That's if you want to find me there. That's a good place to find me these days. I've scrubbed my presence from X Twitter, so you won't find my account on there anymore.
I'm still on there, but it's mostly just Drek there that you find. It's like spam right now. It's a lot of spam, and this is not real content anymore.
Evan, where can they find you these days?
Let's see. So I am still on X for now, but I'm not really using it. More just lurking at this point. I am on Instagram. I am on Threads. I'm on Letterboxd, as you mentioned. I am on Blue Sky, and my handle in all those places is Real Recon. That's real as in film reel. And then you can find me every week over at Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast. So that's where people can hear me and see me and look at the movies I'm blogging on Letterboxd, but not reviewing.
No, it's fine, Evan. If you don't review them on Letterboxd, I often find that like, as writers, we're just giving away content for free, right? If we write reviews on Letterboxd,
Right.
So, yeah, save it for somewhere else. Save it for Spoiler Piece. Save it for here.
That's true.
Whatever. Evan, I've done a lot of talking lately. I want to hear you talking. What have you been watching?
Oh, I think before we get to that, did we mention the newsletter? in our station identification. Do we mention the Substack newsletter?
The Substack newsletter, yeah, it's the pictures.substack.com.
Yes.
It has been updated since the gift list, which came out right before Thanksgiving for Black Friday sales. I'm planning on updating it soon. A few more posts before the end of the year, maybe a preview into my top 10 of the year. Also, some other late minute Christmas grabs that have come across my desk, whether it be Galaxy Quest on 4K
Ooh.
or the recent 10th anniversary release of Interstellar. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah. So don't forget about that, listeners. Max is doing a lot of great stuff over on the newsletter, and there's a little bit of overlap with the podcast, but it's largely new, original, great material that he's trying out over there. So go over there and subscribe. Damn it. But yes, you asked me what I've been watching. I'll mention two movies that I've seen recently. Like you, I'm plowing through the screener pile. This year it's more of a digital pile that I'm going through. But I just caught up with the animated film Flow, which I just thought was incredible. This is a animated film, CGI animated. It's Latvia's entry this year for the Oscars, and it's a very simple premise. It's about a cat, and there's the home that it lives in is flooded. There's a gigantic kind of biblical level flood that occurs, and it's fighting for survival, and it meets a group of other animals who are also trying to survive, and it teams up with them. So it's like a cat and a capybara and a lemur and a bird and a dog, and they're all together trying to survive through this flood, and it is just absolutely arresting. The animation is just so beautiful. The emotional journey that it takes you on is just incredible. It's so, listeners, to kind of give you an idea, when I'm watching movies, generally to review them, I have my phone out, I'm taking notes. This is the time where I think I had my phone out for the opening scene, then I put it down, I didn't touch it the rest of the movie. I just was so enthralled by what was going on the screen that I just couldn't even think to look away or to be distracted by my phone in any way, shape, or form to tell you like how invested I was in this movie emotionally. I just thought it was so well done. And the animals make animal noises, so it's dialogue free. There's no dialogue in the movie, so warning about that. But I normally hate that kind of thing, and it didn't bother me in the slightest because I think there's such great interactions between the animals, and they have such interesting personification to them while also remaining animals at the same time. Like I can think of a scene where the cat climbs up on the boat and uses its paw to just bat something off in a way that a cat would totally do, and it feels so appropriate because it's cat, but at the same time you just witness the cat interact with other animals in a way that feels very human, even though they're not exchanging words. You feel emotions going on between the different animals in the movie. So this movie wrecked me. It was so good, and I highly recommend. Although I have no clue where you can watch it at the moment. I think it might be in some theaters.
So I before I give my thoughts on the movie and before I share where you can currently see it, who decided to let the capybara drive the boat? I mean, really. But yeah, I think Flow has been playing some smaller theaters recently. I know, for instance, you could have seen it during the IFF Boston Fall Focus. They showed it there. I also saw, actually just today, that it's going to be available digitally in early January.
Okay.
This movie is being released by like Janus, who owns Criterion, and this is like they're shepherding it everywhere, if you will, and it has been a movie that has done well with the film critic bodies that have voted thus far. I think it also won many of the awards bodies, and it's a funny thing, right? Because on one hand, you have Pixar's probably most needed success in years, and Inside Out 2. And
Yeah.
the movie was good. It's not Inside Out 1, but given what it did for Pixar, maybe it would be more competitive. And I guess on the other side of that is the terrific Wild Robot, which didn't quite take in the same box office, but is a fantastic adaptation of that novel. And I really loved Wild Robot myself. As for Flow, I did see it too, and while I didn't connect with it as viscerally as Evan did, I there's a lot. I must stick to most of the positive thoughts that I had about it, where I really liked how the animation really captured those animals, and you felt that they were very lived in. They did an excellent job of capturing the mannerisms of a cat, like you said. So much so that it didn't matter that you didn't hear the cat speak, but you felt like by the end of that movie that like you die for that cat.
Yeah.
Like it's been on such an adventure.
Right.
But yeah, I that's one movie where I think like a lot of people are gonna be fond of it, and in a calculated score that most of these places look at, it's going to do well.
Yeah. It's a great story about friendship, interspecies friendship, which is one of my favorite things, especially if you find me on Instagram or TikTok or any of those places. I love videos about animals being friends. So
What else did you see, Evan?
I also caught up with a movie called Strange Darling, which I've been meaning to see for a while. It's a thriller horror movie that I think people had mentioned to me on several occasions that I should see. It seemed like it was gonna be up my alley, and it's written and directed by J.T. Molnar. And really, I think it's best to go in with as little info as possible. It's a thriller. It says that it's told in 6 chapters. It shows those chapters out of sequence in a very fun kind of way, an intentional way, and the kind of like on paper summary is nothing is what it seems when a twisted one night stand spirals into a serial killer's vicious murder spree. And it's a gorgeous movie, like really amazing cinematography. I think really fantastic editing. It has a couple of really dynamite lead performances, Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner, who is kind of like carved out like a fun little career for himself, playing a kind of villainous kind of guy. Like I think back to his Veronica Mars days when he played the creepy younger brother, and I really enjoyed him in that. And so I've just seen him pop up in a few things over the years and think, okay, Kyle Gallner's kind of got this like villainous streak to his career that I'm enjoying. And yeah, I don't want to say too much more because I don't really want to ruin it. I think you should just go in with as little info as possible. But if you like a very kind of hyper stylized movie, really vibrant color palettes, really kind of dynamic editing and non-linear storytelling, I think you'll have fun with this one. Max, have you seen this one?
No, I haven't. When you say like chapters out of order, maybe it's simple, but my mind instantly goes to like Pulp Fiction, like this idea, like they're kind of like telling you different parts of the story, but you'll connect it at the end.
Yeah, well, in this movie, they actually tell you what the number of the chapter is.
Mm.
So it says like this is a story in the beginning. I think it says this is a story told in 6 chapters, and then it starts with chapter 3 or something like that, and then rewinds back to chapter 4, and then to 2. To like it bounces around. I think effectively in a fun kind of way.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
We watch so many movies as critics. It's fun to see when something does something different.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought this one was a lot of fun. I was glad that I checked it out. I also was very invested early on, and I don't think I really looked at my phone very much while I was watching this one too. So that speaks volumes. But tell me about what you've seen. I think you mentioned you've seen Wicked, which is definitely on my list.
Yeah, so I caught up with this on Discount Tuesday, Evan. And
Ooh, so you
I'm
saw it in the
gonna
theater.
yes, and yeah, because it was funny. We got for your consideration screeners for this, and it was like the same morning that I had already bought a ticket to go, and I was like, oh, do I still pay the $5 to go? And my wife was like, absolutely. She's like, if you already had plans to go, it's $5. Go see it in the theater. I'm glad
Yeah.
I did. Thankfully, I had a screening that people weren't singing along with the movie, which is
Oh, that's
what
good.
people have been hearing. And I guess my experience with Wicked and as musicals as a whole is I really do enjoy musicals. I see 5 or 6 musicals a year live, and I've seen the off Broadway production of Wicked twice. So I was very familiar with the source material, and I've just never been a fanatic of Wicked like other people I know. And whether or not that makes me like strange, because like how could you like musicals and not love Wicked? I don't know, but I have never loved it. Maybe because the story of Wicked, which is about Glinda and Alphaba, the good witch and the evil wicked witch of the West from the Wizard of Oz, met up in school, kind of reminds me of like Harry Potter, and
Gotcha.
I'm like, and also like redeeming a villain that like, did I need to have her redeemed? Um, it kind of like started a whole trend, Evan, right? Because then Disney
Right.
made their own thing with Maleficent, and they're like, oh, we're gonna do
Yeah.
that kind of the same
Right.
thing.
Yeah, the like heroes as or sorry, the villains as heroes kind of turn.
Yes. And so like those kind of things kind of turned me off. And honestly, I didn't like the music never really did anything for me. A lot of people say like they love it for the music and they could sing every song and there's not a weak number in it. And I just never felt that way. But I guess seeing it on the screen, and it's directed by John M. Chu, who's famous for not only Crazy Rich Asians, but I guess I learned this while I was doing my research on Wicked. He directed Step Up 2 and Step Up 3D, which were dance movies,
Okay.
and
Step
um,
up to the streets.
yes, and then he more recently directed In the Heights. So he has certainly music and dancing background
Yeah.
in his directorial pocket, and um, they have the cast of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande as the two witches. Uh, Great casting, obviously professional singers. No watching La La Land singers try to try to get by. These are two
Yeah.
two two professional, excellent singers who do a fantastic job, and the cast is like rounded out by a lot of familiar faces, whether it's Michelle Yeoh, or Jeff Goldblum, or even the voice of Peter Dinklage. So you got a lot of familiar faces in there. And for the most part, it's great, Evan. I mean, like, if I think that fans of Wicked certainly won't be disappointed.
Hmm.
I found myself like wanting to listen to a few of the songs after I left the movie, so I was like, I guess like this worked better for me than whatever the stage musical has in the past.
Mm. That's
Um,
interesting that the movie was a little more effective for you than the show.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe just because it was more visual. I think like, and it's the funniest thing, Evan. Like, a lot of people complain that the first movie is as long as the entire Broadway production,
Yeah.
because the first movie's like 2.5 hours. Like, but while watching the movie, I felt like there was parts of the story that were still unexplored. Like, you could have
Okay.
had like this as like a TV show, because like the world is so there's a lot of things going on underneath, outside of the relationship between the two women, and how it grows. But you also have like politics of like animals and wizards and the people of Oz, and uh, there's a lot going on underneath the musical. Um,
Cool.
so yeah, it's a good time. I enjoyed it. On the other hand, was Moana 2, the other big box office smash. Moana 2 was originally intended to be a Disney Plus series until Disney said, nope, we need a movie for Thanksgiving in 24, and we're gonna uh, kind of convert this new Moana TV show into Moana 2. And this story does not have music by Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's a new songwriting duo, and
I'm okay with that.
but I know, but then you watch it and you're like, his talents are missed, because like I think the first Moana soundtrack is really great, and this didn't do much for me, and it's kind of like a retread of the original, where you first see Moana and she's home, and they're like, oh, all our people can now go out on boats, but wait, there's a new problem where we can't find anybody else out in the world, and we believe that there are other people, and there's something getting in our way. And you find out there's like another evil god making it so that Moana and her people can't meet other people.
Classic sequel setup.
Yeah.
Problems you thought were solved by the first one are now not solved.
Yeah, so this time she's it's been a few years since the first movie. She has a sister now, and a willing crew to go with her on her boat to do this mission, and eventually meet up with Maui once again to overcome this great obstacle. And you know, it's a musical as well, because there's like 7 songs in it, I think. And you know, it's fine. I guess, like, I don't know if I was disappointed because I didn't expect much. But I took my kid to it, and she really enjoyed it. I don't know if she liked it as much as the first one or not. But there are, like, when I'm like, oh, do you want to listen to the Moana 2 soundtrack? She's like, yeah. She's like, I like this one song that they have in there. Like, it's called like Get Lost or something. And she's like, oh yeah, I like that one. I was like, okay, we'll listen to that. And so I guess if you have children who've enjoyed Moana, they certainly won't be disappointed.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, and you know, there's another Moana project right around the corner, where the live action Moana, they're currently in production. So
oh yeah, that's right. One of my other least favorite trends of recent years. Let's just take an animated movie that we already made and just make a live action version of it.
And some of them, Evan, it's hilarious. They're not even necessarily live action, like The Lion King, right? Because like that's not live action. It's
right.
Still
it's
computer.
CG animated on. Yeah.
All right, I think that wraps up our conversation. Evan and I have been watching a lot of movies. We could actually have like a 2-hour segment of what we've been watching. And just
it's true, yeah.
Go down
There's
the barrel.
enough there to fill a whole episode, probably.
But we're going to save most of that for our Best of the Year segment when we record in January, I believe. Yeah. I think by then, Evan and I will be pretty satisfied with our lists. You know, we debated doing it this time, but still, this gives us more time to catch up and make something that we feel more confident in. And
that's true. Yeah.
Well, we'll do that for one January episode. We'll do our year preview in January that I like to do, where
that'll be fun.
Kind of figure out what movies that we were looking forward to, and see if, how it ended up being. But yeah, nothing else, Evan. I wish you a happy holiday,
you too.
Happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas.
You too.
I wish that to all of our listeners out there, and a very healthy and happy New Year.
Yeah, wishing you all the best, listeners. Thank you for joining us on this journey this year, and looking forward to spending more time with you next year.
Alrighty, so see you in the new year. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.